Good morning, everyone. Before I call in lead counsel, Mr. Harrison, to begin, I just wish to say that we don't have Commissioner Frederica Forth in the hall here with us, but she's on Zoom. And Mr. Quinton Stovall will be joining us shortly, but we do have a quorum, so we will begin. Counsel Harrison? I don't know if counsel is hearing me. He's not, counsel is not hearing. He says he's not connected.
He can hear you now, Justice.
Counsel? It's counsel who is not.
Yes, he can hear you now. His mic is muted.
Can you hear now, counsel?
I'm now hearing. Good morning, commissioners, chairman. I've only heard the last 10 seconds.
Okay. I'm sorry, counsel. I just indicated that Mrs. Frederica Forth would be joining us by Zoom. She's actually on Zoom. And that Mr. Quinton Stovall will be joining us very shortly. And then I invited you, sir, to begin.
Very well. Good Commissioner, members, and all persons viewing, importantly. This morning is continuation 034. It's an application being made by the claimants in reference to the estate of grandfather James Talbot, who the claimants allege owned 100 acres of land property in Tuckerstown. I'd like to ask at this time that the witnesses who had been here before, Ms. Joanne Bernice Adams and Mr. Dwayne Disney Talbot, I'd ask that they be sworn or affirmed depending on their conviction or religious conviction at this time.
Joanne Bernice Adams. I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Dwayne Disney Talbot. I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you. Now, on the last occasion, the 29th of November, I believe it was, when we were, the 26th of November 2020, when we had heard evidence on the last occasion, we returned today in respect of some additional information which is being supplied. Now, may I start with Joanne Bernice Adams. Good morning, Madam. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning.
Good. Thank you. Now, just in respect of the submission that you made, you're making a second submission today. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And it is entitled Submission Part 2 to the Commission of Inquiry, Land Loss, submitted by Joanne Bernice Adams and Dwayne Disney Talbot, claim 034, and it's dated March 16, 2021. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Thank you. The document consists of 17 pages.
That is correct.
Madam Chair, I'm asking that the document entitled Submission Part 2 to the inquiry.
Yes.
Land loss. Submitted by Joanne Bernice Adams and Dwayne Disney Talbot. Claim number 034, March 16, 2021. That it is tendered and admitted as Exhibit JBA6. JBA6.
I make the order that submission part 2 to the Commission of Inquiry Land Laws submitted by Ms. Joanne Bernice Adams and Mr. Dwayne Disney Talbot, claim number 034, dated March 16, 2021, is hereby entered as Exhibit G-E...
No, JB.
J...
JB.
J-E...
No, the initials
Okay,
of Joanne
JB,
Bernice Adams.
B-A... 6?
That's correct, madam.
Thank you.
Ms. Adams, you take us to the first page of the document.
Yes. This submission is hereby presented to the Commission of Inquiry, established on 31st October 2019 by the Premier, the Honorable E. David Burke, J.P., M.P., and directed to inquire into historic losses of citizens' property in Bermuda, in keeping with the mandate of the House of Assembly as expressed in its resolution of 4th of July 2014. This presentation, Part 2, will give further evidence to substantiate our claim and also provide further documentation as requested by the Commission at the end of our first hearing on November 26, 2020. This is what has been discovered since which by Joanne Bernice Adams and Dwayne Disney Talbot in regards to the land of our great-great-grandfather James Talbot and it being passed on to our great-grandfather John Samuel Talbot. Today, we will submit the following: the will of James Talbot, references from the deed of James Talbot, current Google map of the land identified in the will and deeds of James Talbot, and a map from the deed of Joanna Talbot.
Thank you. Now, the first document you wish to refer to is the will of James Talbot, Book of Wills, volume 27, page 268, 270.
Yes, I need to make a... I'm sorry.
JB.
Before we move to that, I need to make a correction on that first page I just read. Number 3, it should be the will of Joanna Talbot. It shouldn't be and deeds. It should be the will of Joanna Talbot.
So it should read deeds of Joanna Talbot.
Yeah,
Joanna?
Joanna
Joanna Talbot.
And it is spelled. Pardon me?
It should be the deeds of Joanna Talbot.
Could I ask you to spell Joanna for us?
Joanna.
Thank you very much. Please proceed, madam. I took you to page 3,
Yes.
which reads the will of James Talbot, Book of Wills.
Yes.
Is this to read Joanna Talbot or is this to read James? It is correct as it appears here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, the will of James Talbot, Book of Wills, volume 27, pages 268 to 270. You retrieved it from the Bermuda archives on November 30th, 2020, madam.
Yes, I did.
Is there any part of the will which is attached on the following pages, page 4, that you wish to draw attention to, madam?
I assumed I would be reading the entire will.
Please proceed, madam.
Okay. I hereby certify that on the 2nd day of July in the year of our Lord 1896, Before me, the officer administering the government and ordinary aforesaid personally appeared William Charles Trott, one of the subscribing witnesses to the annual instrument of writing. Learning date, the 23rd day of February in the year of our God and 1893. Purporting to lie the last will and testament of James Talbot, late of the parish of St. George's in these islands, planter, deceased, and he solemnly made oath on the holy evangelist of Almighty God that he saw the said James Talbot sign and duly execute the same by making his mark at the foot of and thereof as the same more applied thereon, and that before such execution the said will was used to the said tester in the presence of said William Charles Trott and of Charles Vidal Fitzgerald Smith, the other subscribing witness, and he appeared perfectly to understand the same, and that at the time of such execution the said James Talbot was of sound disfree mind, memory, and understanding to the best of this department's judgment. That he also saw Charles Vidal Fitzgerald Smith subscribe his name as witness thereto, that the said Charles Vidal Fitzgerald Smith was present during such execution with him, this department, and that the said deponent and the said Charles Vidal Fitzgerald Smith did attest and subscribe the affixed test instrument in the presence of the said testator, William C. Trott, in testimony whereof the said William Charles Trott both hereto subscribed his name, and I, the office administering the government and ordinary aforesaid, have at the hand and seal at arms the day and year herein first written by his honor's command, Archibald Allison, Colonial Secretary. In the name of God, amen. I, James Talbot of Tuckerstown in the parish of St. George in the islands of Bermuda, planter, do hereby revoke all former wills and other testimony disparations heretofore made by me, and to declare this to be my last will and testament. First, I do will and direct that all my just debts, funeral and testamentary charges be paid out of the estate as speedily as possible after my decease. Second, I give and bequeath all my personal estate and effects whatsoever, and wherever to my wife Joanna Talbot. Also, I give and devise 19 acres that part of my sealed estate to which my present residence stands, with the outbuilding gardens and appurtenances thereunto belonging, situated in Tuckerstown in the parish of St. George's, together with the lot known as Castle Lot, and measuring 15 acres, situate in the aforesaid town and parish, bounded northerly by the water of Castle Harbor, easterly by the water dividing Castle Island from my said lot, southerly by the sea, and westerly by a wall, the same with the residence of my estate, to hold to my said wife Joanna Talbot her heirs and assigns for me. To my 9 children I give and devise my real estate in the following manner, namely, I first direct that a road 12 feet wide be made extending northerly from the public road to such part or parts of my land as will give to my children ingress and egress. Second, by that shall each hold his or her portion, or as his or her land marks respectively shows, numbering from the 3 to 11, i.e. to Benjamin Daniel 5 acres marked 3, to John Samuel 7 acres marked 4, to Henry Thomas 13 acres marked 5, to Harrington Artemus 13 acres marked 6, to Princess Jennings 6 acres marked 7, to Lydia 6 acres marked 8, to Serenia Cordelia 6 acres marked 9, to Catherine Virginia 6 acres marked 10, to Julia Ann 6 acres marked 11, to hold to them my said 9 children, their heirs, and assign forever. Should any of my said children die without issue over in state
Or interstate.
or interstate, in such case, the inheritance so left shall go to my wife, Joanna Talbot, absolutely. My said wife, should my said wife die interstate, her real estate was left shall subsequently be shared and divided between my surviving children and heirs of my deceased children. Third and lastly, I do here nominate and appoint Charles William Thomas Smith and Samuel Painter Richardson to be my executors to this my last will and testament. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand this 23rd day of February in the year of our God, 1893, James, his mark, Talbot, signed by the mark of said James Talbot, the testator in the presence of us, who in his presence and in the presence of each other at the same time subscribe our names as witnesses: William Charles Trott, Charles Vidal Fitzgerald Smith, recorded 14th of September, 1896, Archibald, can't make that out, Colonial Secretary. And there is the end of will of James.
Thank you very much. Now I take you to the following page, which reads James Talbot, extract from Book of Deeds, volume 23, pages 170 and 171, 176 and 177. Go ahead, madam.
I'm going to read just the first 3 or 4 lines of page 170, and I'm going to read excerpts from the other pages, and I'll indicate where they are when I get to that page. This indenture of 12 parts.
You read, please.
I'm sorry.
Just a minute. Each page you read, please just indicate the significance that you wish the commissioners to attach to each page and why you have highlighted these pages, madam.
Okay. This first page.
Counsel, may I just interject and ask a question, please? Are you going to be entering any of these documents as exhibits?
Yes, all of them.
It's exhibit JBA 6, madam. We're reading JBA 6, 17 pages,
Right.
which consists of exhibit JBA 6.
Okay.
So I'm just going to read
Go ahead, please.
the first few lines, and I'll explain why afterwards. This indenture of 12 parts, made the 17th day of December in the year of our Lord, 1862, between Thomas Jennings Tucker of the town of Hamilton in the parish of Pembroke, in the islands of Bermuda, merchant, and Augusta Martha Tucker, formerly Harvey, his wife of the first part, Seth Harvey of the town of St. George's in the parish of St. George's in the islands of Bermuda. This is the beginning of the deeds of James Talbot, and I'm now going to go over to the next part where we will see all the names of the people who are involved, which are the family of Benjamin Dickinson Harvey. So on page 171, just about halfway down.
Could you just count the lines for me? How many lines down? I'd appreciate that.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Line 14.
Starting with the word daughter.
Yeah, starting with the daughter. And devised, I can't make out that word, in the last will and testament of Benjamin Dickinson Harvey, Esquire, deceased, and James Tobit of Tuckerstown, the parish of St. George's, aforesaid, in the islands of Bermuda, aforesaid planter of the 12th part. So that is just to indicate that all the people who are indicated from the beginning of page 170 down to line 14 and 171 have agreed that that this land is being sold to James Tobit. And if we turn over to the next page, 176, and
Thank
read from
you.
the first line, admit and acknowledge.
We're at 176, first line.
Yeah. Admit and acknowledge.
Yes, please proceed.
And from the same and every part thereof do severally and respectively acquit, release, and forever discharge the said James Tobit, his heirs, executors, and administrators, and assigned by their presence, and which said several and respective sums of money, making together the said sum of 810 pounds, are in first for the absolute purchase of the inheritance in fee, simple, conditional, in possession of the several and respective parts, shares or proportions of them, the said persons, I can't make out that word, to the present of the 11 parts of, and in the said several lot pieces or parcels of land and premises, hereby intended to be granted and released and conveyed in the, I can now,
Issuance.
yes, issuance, I'm sorry, the issuance hereinafter expressed, and which said lots, pieces, or parcels of land are numbered respectively as hereinafter mentioned. And that is to demonstrate that James actually purchased that land.
Could you repeat that? It demonstrates that they actually did what,
That
madam?
their transaction went through for James to purchase that land at 810 pounds. James Tobit
Thank you.
purchased the land.
Thank you, madam.
On page 177, 1, 2, 3, 4. Page 14, line 14.
Line 14 begins with the word titles.
It must be 13, several. The line above that, several. Several and respective shares, parts, estate, rights, titles, and interest, in interest of, and in the same premises, grant, bargain, sell, allude, release, and confirm unto the same James Tobit, his heirs and assigns. And that again, just to demonstrate that he purchased that land. There's lots of lands.
Now, just to be clear, I know the cover page of the document that we read earlier distinctly pointed out the pages that you were making reference, 170, 171, 176, and 177.
Yes,
And just to be clear for the commissioners, you did not include pages 172 through to 175 in this document, correct?
correct.
Okay. Now, you like the current of land area once owned by about an heirs?
Could you repeat that, please? Sorry, could you repeat that, Commissioner?
Would you now like to take us to the current Google map of land area once owned by James and Joanna Talbot and heirs?
Yes, and Mr. Tolbert will speak to that.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Council. Good morning,
Good
Commissioners.
morning. Could I
First,
ask the secretary, just a minute, sir. Could I just ask the secretary to take us to the next slide of this exhibit, JBA 6, before you start, sir?
I would like to go to the next one before that. Sorry that it looks like it's a little bit backward, but I'd like to go to the map of land and area owned by Joanna Tolbert and heirs from the Book of Wills first.
Certainly. Go ahead. Could I just ask you to go to the following slide, Secretariat?
I could
On the screen there?
just, they have a little thing in the way, but yeah.
Please scroll down some.
Council, Mr. Tobin has verified that this is the correct slide that I'm
Yeah,
on.
go to the next
Oh,
one.
the next slide.
Yes, fine, but just, yes, thank you. Yes, right here. Thank you very much.
Up a little bit more. Yeah, can you take that out there? Okay, thanks. Okay, the next slide. This slide shows you the will, from the will, the actual will of Joanna Tobin, which was submitted earlier. And you see highlighted the, in like lime green highlight, lot number 10. Lot number 10 is the land that was bequeathed from Miss Joanna Tobit to her son, John Samuel Tobit. So that's the area that we have of interest. The hill area was the area that belonged to Joanna Tobit, given to her through the will of James Tobit, her husband.
Okay. The size of that did.
The size of the lot 10 is deemed to be 7 acres.
Thank you. And this document is, where was this document obtained?
This was obtained from the will of Joanna Tobit, from the Book of Wills.
And then could I just ask that the document is made, we could see the entire document, but more particularly the foot, the right-hand side, lower right-hand side of the document. Mr. Talbot, that circular, that stamp indicate the source of the document?
Yes, that's correct. That's from the Bermuda archives.
How much? You may continue, sir.
Okay, so now if we go back to Google Maps, where we will have a
Could you
more,
show us the area?
yeah, where we have a more current situation. What Google Maps is showing you is the area known as Turkestan, and for what we can, from my research and what I've had researched, it appears that the land that and what do you call this line? Dotted lines. That appears to be the land that Joanna Tolbert held. Now, in that land, the land that is of interest is the portion that goes on to, Google Maps had it named as Shell Point Road.
I'm just going to ask, with the assistance of the technicians, that the cursor could be used to assist the commissioners to indicate the area that you are making reference to, sir. Is that the area where the cursor is circling, sir?
No, come. Who's got it? Okay. If you stop it there, come to your right now. Right. Now up a little bit. Just all in that area, where the greenery and all that there. In that area is where I'm referencing.
And the area where the cursor is now, that is the area that you referenced earlier on the map of land?
Yes, that appears to be 10. What I couldn't have done because of time was to have it scaled according to how the map was from the Book of Wheels to Google Maps. So I could have given you the exact location, and therefore been able to identify homes that were in that exact location. But the area that it appears is where the cursor is right now.
Thank you very much. And that area, based on the map of land, you indicate that it is 7 acres. A 7 acre.
It's
area.
a 7-acre area.
Thank you.
Can I just make an addition to that based on the,
This is Joanne.
yes,
Bernice speaking now.
yes, based on the deed? It just says on page 177 and 1, 2, 3, 4.
Sorry, you wish to take us back to page
177 and,
Thank you.
right. And it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You may go ahead,
Five
madam.
lines, yeah. Begins with Trot, the 5th line up. And Thomas Parsons, between the south.
Sorry, just a minute, madam.
Okay,
You're at page 77. You wish to take us to the 5th line?
5th line from the bottom, I'm sorry.
Or from the bottom? And it begins with the word
Trot.
trot. You may go ahead, madam.
The read, I'm not sure that I could. Just 1 second. I may have got the wrong. I have the location.
Could I probably ask you to start reading before, because at that point that you have mentioned, it's part of a name. So could I ask you just to review where you would like to draw attention to, the commissioner's attention?
Okay, just 1 second. I may have. Okay, it's not quite. Granted,
Council, just for information, one of the witnesses, Mr. Darrow, has asked if you could step out for a couple of minutes and come back.
Mr. Parent, if you have to repeat that, you
Gentlemen, want to step outside. The evidence can continue. Yeah. The evidence can continue in his absence.
Counsel, the evidence may continue in his absence.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear, in whose absence, madam? I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
Just say it again, he couldn't hear you.
Yes, Mr. Tolbert wished to be excused for a minute, and then he shall return. But we requested that the evidence can continue until he returns from the lady, Mrs. Adams, or Miss Adams.
Okay. Okay, so Francis James Samuel Trott.
Okay,
Sorry, Council, Ms. Lister here. Mr. Toll was just taking momentary leave. Did you want to continue with Ms. Adams, or did you want to wait till he's back in?
well, once the commissioners are indicating that they're fine to proceed, then that's okay. But
Yes, they have done
normally
so.
it would be best to await. But once the commissioners are satisfied that they wish to continue, then they may.
Yes, the chair has confirmed that they can continue.
Okay, very well.
Council, you commissioners are quite okay. You may proceed. They have no difficulty with you proceeding.
Okay.
And the witness that is
Very
left
well.
has no difficulty with you
Very well.
proceeding.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Adams, you were about to point out to us an area that you wish to draw the attention of the commissioners.
Yes.
You may proceed, Madam. Where exactly are you on page 177?
The sixth line from the bottom. Francis James Samuel Trott and Thomas.
You may proceed, Madam.
Okay, Francis James Samuel Trott and Thomas Parsons, between the south and the west by the glebe land, and between the west and the north by the Little Sound, and also of, and in all that certain lot as parcel of land situated lying and I can't make that out. In Tucker's Town, lying and being in Tucker's Town.
Being in Tucker's Town.
So you see where the land that he's showing you shows the Little Sound, which would be indicative of where he's pointing it out on the land or on the map. It was bordered by the Little Sound.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam. So, would you wish to, is there any other reference or point that you wish to make regarding the maps or the Google photograph?
No.
No.
I'm sorry, go ahead. No,
Thank you.
not at this time.
Could I just invite you then to take us to the closing, your closing remarks?
At the end of our first hearing, we were asked what we would like to get out of this hearing. Upon further discussion and reflection, we seek reparation for the 2 acres of land for which our great-grandfather was not compensated, to be fulfilled through one of the 2 means listed below. Be paid in monetary form using the selling cost of that era compounded to the current year, or by conveyance of 2 acres of land within Tucker's Town to us, Joanne Bernice Adams and Dwayne Disney Tobin. I'd like to thank the Commission for having us back and hearing from us again. And there was one thing that you did request that we weren't able to get the information, and that was whether or not the people who signed the petition, the Tuckerstown residents who signed the petition against Furnace Vivi, whether or not they got land and what they actually received. I did do some research, but wasn't able to turn it off at that point in time. And so we weren't able to support that. I did look, another question was asked as to whether or not I knew if people were black or white who we were talking about. And I did find a bit more information about the gentleman Priest, who his land was some of the land that was purchased back by Furnace Reed. And he lived overseas, and he just came to Bermuda once. He may have only been here once, and he did sell his land, I guess basically because he wasn't on the island. He had nothing else to do with the island. He had just happened to purchase it. And indications of, from what I read and where he lived, would indicate that he was indeed white. So that was the only other thing that I hadn't put in here. But I did look and I couldn't find it. And we've actually, I know some of the people who have presented have been collecting information for years, and we've basically done this since the beginning of June, July, up until now. So I feel we've done very well collecting information and trying to get into archives and land valuation and all the other places to be able to present you as fully as we could the picture that we have of what happened. Thank you.
And the other thing that I would like to mention is that the fact that the late Walton Brown had submitted on Hansard, and I took this from recollection about this very items. And though I wasn't able to find it in the archives, I'm still going to research it. In his statement, he said that that the colonial secretary, whose name you saw affixed to some of the documentation, was a little bit upset because after the steam company, Furnace Whitley, after they had bought it, the first right of refusal was supposed to go back to the former owners, former residents of Turkestan. I'm a Tobit. I do not own land down in Turkestan. And I don't know if my grandpa, I know my grandfather and my grandmother did neither. So I don't think it can go according to how the colonial secretary wanted to go. But again, like I'm going to continue on researching these items and stuff like that. It may not be in time to be presented to this type of body, but I'm going to continue on researching various different things. So with that, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I have some follow-up questions. On the final page of Exhibit JBA6, where you indicated what you have described as seeking a repatriation for the 2 acres of land for which our great-grandfather was not compensated to be fulfilled through one of the 2 means listed below. I'd just like to ask you some further questions on the 2 means listed below. The first one being, be paid in monetary form using the selling costs of that era compounded to the current year. We are aware that on the previous occasion that you appeared before the Commission on November 26, 2020, and based on your submissions and the document which is now an exhibit, you had made reference, when I say you, I mean both you, Mr. Talbot, and Ms. Adams, to your submission where you spoke about purchase prices and comparison to the purchase of the property of John Samuel Talbot. You had used a number of examples in respect of other persons whose land had been sold, and you referenced the purchase price. You mentioned a Stuart McLean, a Charles Hollis, a Mr. George Smith, Benjamin Priest. You had also mentioned the comparison of similar properties in today's market, and you made reference to Riga, Sotheby's, International Reality, and finally what KW Bermuda advertised. So having said all that, my question is, having made a submission to be paid in monetary form using the selling cost of that era compounded to the current year, recognizing that you are making reference to 2 acres of land, have you arrived at a figure which you wish to share with the commissioners as to what your calculation is, as to what that figure should be, that monetary form?
No, we haven't, but we could send something in subsequently.
Okay, thank you. In respect of the second means listed, you have indicated by conveyance of 2 acres of land within Tuckerstown to us, Joan Bernice Adams and Dwayne Disney Talbot. I make reference now to the maps, the map that was just referenced, and Mr. Talbot gave evidence with regards to the said map, the map of land area owned by Joanna Talbot and heirs from Book of Wills, as also the Google map of the land area. Now, you'd agree with me that what is represented on the map and the Google map, this is property which has, for want of a better term, it has beach. It has not just beach, but it has seaward. The sea is next to the sea.
Yes, it is.
No, but your means list suggests 2 acres of land. Is it that your submission here is that you wish preparation of 2 acres of land anywhere, or is it that you're asking for 2 acres of land which is either front?
Would preferably be on the water side, but within Tuckerstown, definitely.
Or would you like to give that some thought too?
We could give that some further thought too.
Okay. Madam Chair, Commissioners, I have no further questions at this time.
Yeah, I'd like to ask one question of Mr. Tobin, and it's a generic one. What relation would you have had with the Tobin brothers?
I go in the shower quite often. I'm trying to sing.
No.
I don't have the singing voice of them. I haven't found out the direct link.
Yes.
Some of it's coming. Some of the links to Tuckerstown and the Tobas that are in what is known as Harrison's Bay right now.
Yes.
We're seeing some of them, seeing some of those links, but the direct link to the Tobit brothers, I haven't seen that as yet.
Thank you.
And my voice hasn't showed up as that yet.
Steve?
Yes, the reason I'd asked it because I know that Josiah Smith had some relationship to, it seems like everyone who was dispossessed of Tuckerstown, most of the black people were related to Josiah Smith, and the lineage seemed to have gotten, going on to the Tobit brothers, and that's why whenever I hear the name Tobit related to Tuckerstown, I immediately ask the question to try to establish some linkage back to Josiah Smith.
And the interesting thing is our great-grandmother, Vinnie, who married John Samuel, was a Smith from Takistan and was
Yes.
also born in Takistan.
Yes, so
And,
it,
our great-great-grandfather, B.D. Tobit, was one of his children. And when I was looking through records, I can see some relationship to, I think who would be some of the Tobit brothers.
yes. I'd
and-
make a request of you, and it may, if it's not too onerous, in order for us to, as a commission, to establish a nexus between you and some of the other claimants, if you could trace your family tree, is that possible? And at a further time, I know we don't have a lot of time, but if it's possible at all, if you could try to establish that those linkages,
Yeah,
Okay.
they're there.
your family tree.
Because
yes.
I didn't go off, because of this, we went straight down our line.
Yes.
And I didn't check all of, like, I know B.D. Tobit is related. He is the gentleman, Benjamin, who owned the store and all of that. And those people I know are related to the Tobit brothers.
And
But
have you
I
presented
haven't
that-
gone down, I didn't go laterally, I just went.
Straight down, yeah.
Straight down.
But have you presented that family tree, that part of your family tree, to this commission at all?
Be presented.
Just
If I may
for
assist, Chair,
reference.
Mr.
Yeah,
Yes, it had, the witnesses had submitted that evidence. It is contained in one of our exhibits from the previous hearing.
yeah.
Thank you,
Be there,
Councilor, and
present.
thank you, witnesses. That's what I was trying to establish, and to refresh my memory on that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Starling? Commissioner Starling?
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm also trying to refresh my memory. I regret I seem to have misplaced the relevant binder. I don't have it with me, so I couldn't refer to your previous exhibits. I just wanted to confirm my understanding from memory was that your ancestor had 5 acres and he asked to be compensated by, I think, 1,000 pounds, but he was only awarded by 400 pounds. He had a wooden house.
Right, and he actually had 12 acres,
Oh, okay.
a total of 12,
No, total of 14.
7, and
He had a total of 14.
12.
Uh-huh.
No, 7 was compensated in one instance, and 5 was compensated instead of the other 7 being compensated. 5 was compensated in the other instance.
So that's why you're saying that these 2 acres were not compensated?
Correct.
Right.
Right, thank you. I was just trying to
Yeah.
get my head around that. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Any further questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead, please. Any questions?
Vince?
Chair,
Oh,
Ms. Ford has a
Frederica,
question.
You're on Zoom. Go ahead, please, Mrs. Frederica Fort. She's
Yes,
on Zoom
I'm
and
just-
she has a question.
Thank you. Thank you. The land in question, the 2.5 acres, we're talking about undeveloped property, is that correct? Or was there something erected on the property?
There was something on the property, but I can't say which 2 acres. They just didn't do 2 acres, so I can't, there was something developed actually on that piece of property. There was a house on it.
Okay, the other question I have, I heard Mr. Talbot indicate several properties in today's world being either sold or listed. I'm wondering if you know that an appraisal is just an estimate, and
Yeah.
also it takes in consideration the amenities of one's property, because I heard him mention a property listed recently by KW, and I think that property has a dock and it's huge. I'm just wondering if you understand and wrapping it back into what you're expecting as far as compensation.
Yeah.
The value of the property then of 2.5 acres, if it had been, or had he been compensated at that time, the dollar value at that time, are you indicating based on that the accrual of what would have been compensated as far as investments of that property, or are you looking at how is it going to be measured? And who in particular will provide that type of information for you so it comes across as being fair in today's world?
Okay, you had asked that question the last time as well, and the answer that I gave that it was a layman's estimate for today. The other thing is that in the Google Map document that we have for today, you'll see that there is also bordering the ocean side, and you'll see that without me having it specifically identified as far as it to scale with the assistance of surveyors and things of that nature, there is like a docks in that area. So who will we get to get it done? Some sort of professional. I would not leave it just to my guesstimation or anything of that nature, but we'll have to go toward these professionals to get it done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Mr. Stubble, any questions? And Mrs. Spence, no questions. Thank you. Council, is there anything arising from the questions and answers?
Nothing, Madam Chairman.
Good, thank you. Well, that is the evidence. Thank you, Madam and Mr. Talbot. And that will be the end of the proceedings for the morning, Council. We will take the morning break now, and we will certainly resume tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Very well, Madam Chair and Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to the Secretary and the other support team.
Madam Chair, I didn't want to say it, can you give